Welcome to Stache Sports, episode 14. Today's topics are about the NFL head coaches who got fired this past Monday and Tuesday and season so far in the NFL. For those of you that don't know, Monday after the NFL football season is normally known as Black Monday, where NFL coaches and coordinators get fired because the team wants to move in a different direction in the next season. The teams that fired the coaches so far are the Arizona Cardinals, the Atlanta Falcons, the Cleveland Browns, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Tennessee Titans, the Baltimore Ravens, and the Las Vegas Raiders. Some of these teams are no surprise, like the Falcons, who were pretty bad this year, and the Titans fired their coach after having a bad season, after having the number one draft pick in Cam Ward for going a different direction. And the Giants also are pretty bad this year, letting go their coach, which is no surprise. Las Vegas Raiders fired Pete Carroll after one season, after coming out of retirement, who he previously coached the Seattle Seahawks and had success. Will this 1 year coaching the Raiders ruin his career and make it less important, or will it still be the same even though he came out of retirement for 1 year to coach the Raiders, even though the Raiders now hold the number one pick in next year's draft, which will be held in Pittsburgh? Does that ruin his coaching career or his Hall of Fame career if he happens to have one by going to coach the Raiders and not having a good season and getting fired after 1 year? And all the success he had in Seattle, I don't think it changes the fact, even though he's failed 1 year in Las Vegas, even if he doesn't coach again. But the most shocking coach changing the ball, in my opinion, was the Baltimore Ravens. Even though I didn't like them, the Baltimore Ravens fired John Harbaugh after 18 seasons. John Harbaugh started in 2008 and led the Ravens to a Super Bowl win. And yes, I know recently they haven't had success in the playoffs, because Lamar Jackson seems to fall apart when he's in the playoffs. Sometimes I think that could be on the players falling apart and not always on the coaching staff and not always on the coaches or the coaching staff. Sometimes it could just be bad luck or something. But in today's age of football, if you have a superstar quarterback like Lamar Jackson, who's getting paid a lot of money, it's going to come down when the owners are trying to decide if it's the coach or the quarterback needs to go. It's always going to come down to the coach. And yesterday, after John Harbaugh got fired, a couple hours afterwards, Adam Schefter came out with a report that 7 NFL football teams called John Harbaugh's agent already for openings. Some of them could be maybe for an offensive coordinator, but there's only 6 head coaching openings for football because the Baltimore Ravens will not be calling the coach back to rehire him. So he could go to the Browns, he could go to the Raiders, he could go to the Giants, he could go to the Titans, or he could go to the Falcons, or he could go to the Cardinals. Unless if it's a surprise team like this week who loses in the wild card playoffs, that could be it. Like, I doubt even if the Steelers lose this week in the playoffs to the Houston Texans, I doubt that they'll let go of Mike Tomlin, but who knows? I think Mike Tomlin will be here next year no matter what happens this week. But there's other teams like the Buffalo Bills, who are the 6th seed in the playoffs, and have Josh Allen, who's one of the best MVP quarterbacks, and haven't been able to make the playoffs when this year is wide open. If they lose to Jacksonville on Sunday, maybe Sean McDermott gets fired, and maybe John Harbaugh goes coaching the Buffalo Bills. But I think it'd be funny if he goes coaches the Las Vegas Raiders, because they're in the same division with Jim Harbaugh, his brother. So it'll be brother and brother rivalry in that conference, maybe decide who wins the division some years, or there's a rivalry between the Raiders and Chargers. Or he could go coach the Browns, which I wouldn't want, because he could turn the Browns around and make them actually compete in the AFC North, which they haven't been for the last couple of years. And also try to stick it to the Ravens and have to play him twice. Or I could see him going to the New York Giants and trying to make Jackson Dart a better quarterback than he is, and trying to groom Jackson Dart into a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, or the Atlanta Falcons, and do the same thing with Penix. But we'll see what happens. Also, Kevin Stefanski, the Cleveland Browns, is also a top candidate coach name that's coming out for these coaching jobs. To one of these leverage jobs that are opening besides the Cleveland Browns. Besides the Cleveland Browns. Or there's other people like Glenn Kubiak, Vance Joseph, Brian Flores, Arthur Smith, who's a Steelers offensive coordinator, who could get head coaching jobs again or get head coaching jobs for the first time. Or Shula, who's a defensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams, who can get a coaching job. Or Vance Joseph, who can get back in the coaching job industry. Or Robert Salaya, who can get back in the coaching job. Or Brian Flores, who coached Miami or who coached another team and can get back in there, maybe get a second chance. But we'll see. I don't know if there's any coaches this year from college that might jump up like in years past. The only one maybe could be Kirk Tennedy after the playoffs and for Indiana Hoosiers. He's one game away from possibly taking the Indiana Hoosiers to a college football national championship and turning that program around in 2 years of being there. So maybe he gets a call to go to pro football. But I don't know. Or some of these teams promote their offense coordinator, defense coordinator, head coach. But who knows? I think John Harbaugh will get eaten up in a couple of minutes when he decides he wants to go wherever he decides he wants to go. I think it was a bad decision by the Baltimore Ravens to fire John Harbaugh after 18 seasons, even though he hasn't won a playoff game, even though he hasn't been to the AFC Championship game for a while. But we'll see what happens with that. I think Baltimore will regret the decision. I think John Harbaugh will go to wherever he coaches next and turn him around instantly and be back in the playoffs. Because I think John Harbaugh is a good coach, even though he coached the Baltimore Ravens, the Steelers' arch rival. But Vance Joseph, who's the defensive coordinator for the Broncos, he could be a possible coaching candidate for these openings. Or Robert Salaya, who used to coach the Jets and went back to the 49ers to coach the defense, he could get a second chance. Or Brian Flores, who's been coaching the Vikings defense. Brian Flores used to be on the Steelers. I think Brian Flores should have been promoted as Steelers defensive coordinator, in my opinion. But now he's on the Vikings. Maybe he gets a second chance of coaching and try to see if he can turn around his career. But I don't know if there's any headshot coaches this year like Liam Cohen last year or Brian Johnson, who coaches the Bears. But who knows? Liam Cohen and Brian Johnson turned those teams around 1 year, and Jacksonville is one of the teams this year to beat, I think, in the playoffs. And the Bears are in the playoffs too and could make some noise in the NFC. They can make some noise in the NFC. But we'll see what happens with that. And we'll see if anybody else gets fired. I'm surprised Mike McDaniel is still coaching the Miami Dolphins right now as this video is being made. Because I thought he'll be fired, but he's still somehow coaching the Miami Dolphins. Also, Zach Taylor for the Bengals kept his job. Well, any other head coaching job is now open, but Harbaugh's fired. Well, some of these teams try to fire their coach and hope that they can get John Harbaugh to coach them. Only time will tell what happens and who coaches them. Also, Tom Brady is part of the Las Vegas Raiders. Is part owner of the Las Vegas Raiders or has some kind of ownership in the Las Vegas Raiders? Does he call down to North Carolina if he can get his old buddy Bill Belichick back to coaching in the pro football? Or does he go coach? Or does he get Mendoza? Or does he get Kirk Tennedy, pay him a lot, buy out his contract, and get Mendoza and try to see if he can redo what they do in Indiana in the pro football? Only time will tell. I think Harbaugh will be a good coach wherever he goes. And I think he'll be gone soon. Because I think NFL teams are looking for coaches like Harbaugh, who they know has a good coaching record and is loyal to his team. Teams want coaches that can be there for a while, like the Steelers and Ravens. They only had two, and the Steelers only had a couple coaches, and so have the Ravens now. But now the Ravens will have a new coach because they think that Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh is not doing well. Also, I saw reports, I don't know if it's true, but John Harbaugh was losing the locker room. But a missed field goal, a 44-yard missed field goal, pushed him over the edge and they ended up firing John Harbaugh for it. Ended up firing John Harbaugh. But who knows what would have happened if the field goal would have been good, and they would have lost this week. I don't know what would happen, but I think it was a bad decision for the Raiders, or for the Las Vegas Raiders. I mean, for the Baltimore Ravens, my bad. For the Baltimore Ravens to fire John Harbaugh. And I think he'll be picked up in a heartbeat and coaching somewhere else next year. Hopefully it's not for the Browns, so we don't have to see him in the AFC North. Hopefully he goes coaches the Giants if he's in the NFC, so we only have to see him either once or twice a year if we play the Giants in the season. But we'll see what happens. And Kevin Stefanski, he might get another job too, even though he coached the Browns and didn't do so good with the Cleveland Browns. But also, I think the Cleveland Browns are a badly run organization, so maybe if Kevin Stefanski gets a job where he can go coach a better organization, he might be able to turn them around. Because he did win Coach of the Year a couple of years, so we'll see what happens with the Cleveland Browns and all these NFL head coaching openings. Tomorrow's show will be about the college football playoffs and my predictions on who will make the college football championship game and the stories of the teams that I find interesting in the college football playoffs. We might also talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins' upcoming matchup against the New Jersey Devils tomorrow night and how they're on a 5-game winning streak. It could possibly move it to 6-game winning streak. But this is Stache Sports signing off. Thank you for watching. If you have any comments or if things I could talk about or things I can improve in my videos, please leave them below in the comments. Please like and share and support. Please like and share with friends and please like and share and leave comments down below on stuff I can improve on. Thank you.